Are you looking for a job in Web3? Then this is the show for you. I mean, who wouldn't want a job in Web3? Blockchain is one of the fastest growing techs in the world. It is going to completely revolutionize every part of our lives, from money to identity to ownership to governance. Not to mention salaries in crypto startups as compared to TradFi. Salaries are almost double in crypto. And a recent study showed that most crypto jobs are remote, compared to only 16% of traditional jobs. Best part right now, speaking from experience of working in Web3, is that it is still so small. You get to rub shoulders with giants every day because all the smartest people are here and there's not that many of us yet. So the question is, how the heck do you get a job in Web3 when, let's be real, the job market sucks? It's tough out there. Yes, crypto prices are pumping, but jobs always lag. Many Web3 companies have still recently done layoffs as late as January of 2024. So we want to make sure you know how to find a Web3 job, and we've got the perfect guest with us today, Lacey Kaelani, the CEO and co-founder of MetaIntro, which is the largest Web3 jobs community with over 600,000 members. And today, Lacey and I are going to tell you exactly the steps you should take to get a job. We're going to talk about how you can prep your resume, prep for interviews, and make sure you're the best position to get a job. And we're also going to look over the job market as a whole and talk about what roles are available and how you can set yourself up for success. And we're going to talk about MetaIntro's upcoming job fair at ETH Denver and then NFT NYC and some more events they have on the calendar this year. So buckle up. This is a great episode for all those who want to sit beside me and maybe someday come on this podcast to talk about what you're building in Web3 MGM. Welcome to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. I'm Jay Bird, today's host, and I believe that you can get a job on chain. That's why I'm carving a path for doers to confidently build and invest in Web3. GM Lacey, welcome back to Web3 Academy.
GM, thanks for having me back again. It's been a while.
It's great to see you. It's been a minute. I mean, it feels like it's been a decade in crypto years.
It really has. I mean, since the last time I saw you, we've had crashes, we've had mini runs, we've had an amazing job market, we've had a really shitty job market. You know, it's been decades.
We've gone through it all. We've gone through it all. And through it all, MetaIntro not only is still here, you're thriving. So it was made so much sense to get you back on the show. So many of our listeners are looking for jobs in Web3, or they're founders that are trying to find a team in Web3. So having you on the show as really the leading Web3 job community and building a great product in the space, we're going to touch on your product. But I want to start off today. Can you give us an idea of what is the state of the Web3 job market right now?
And how honest can I be? Because I don't want to scare anybody, but I want to be honest and I want to set realistic expectations, because sometimes I see people out there on crypto Twitter, the podcasts I listen to, and they're talking about the job market in a way where I'm over here like, what job market are you talking about? Like, what am I completely missing? And so
please be honest.
Yeah, the job market's really scary right now. I mean, I write this week alone, and it's Thursday. I put up blog posts every single day. I've written about 6 major layoffs this week alone by hundreds of people. And it's been really scary over the past year and some change. We thought going into 2024, knock on wood, things were turning around. Every company pretty much did their layoffs. There's no one else to be laid off. And then boom, first few days into January 2024. And not only did we think the companies were done making layoffs, companies that had already made layoffs announced more layoffs. And with that, in the crypto space, it's really, really tough to watch some of these companies have to go through layoffs, have to lay off very talented individuals. And it's rough and scary out there right now, just being honest.
It's interesting because from the outside, I think there would be a lot of people that would make a correlation between the job market and the price action of major cryptos, right? And everything's, on the rise. Like Bitcoin's over 50K. Holy shit. Like, I don't think any of us saw that happening this quickly in this bull run. The ETF got approved, like all these major milestones that we're celebrating. It's interesting, most of the shows that we've done since pretty much December, I would say mid-November, have been this like really bullish sentiment, right? And it's not to say, I know you're not, the job market's going to come back, but it's interesting what do you think the correlation is between the price of the markets versus the job market?
Yeah, I think as the price goes up, the scams come back. And the scams for the job market, not scams in crypto in general. So I would say over the past 4 weeks, I've seen a MetaIntro's Discord is incredibly secure. We have all the bots. I promise you, you're safe. But I have seen so many scams posted in our server over the past 4 weeks. So like it was almost like 0 to 100 overnight. And I was thinking about this literally yesterday of, I wonder why that is. That's interesting. Everything is up right now. I wonder why that is. And so I think there's a correlation right now with the scam jobs being posted, people excited about the market, people excited to finally land a job within this space, eager to click on anything. And the market is very desperate right now. Everybody needs a job. And so it's a perfect time to prey on vulnerable people, which is the job seekers. And I think there's a very clear correlation right now happening.
Yeah. So from the employer side, it's a great job market, I would assume, right now then.
It is great.
There is a wealth of talent out there. I always find it very interesting because we actually have been hiring recently, and you helped me out with some of our hiring. So shout out to you and your team.
Yep.
And 2 things really stood out to me from the hiring perspective. One was the number of people that just want to get into Web3. Like the number of people I met with that were like, maybe not the right person for the role. And they're just like, just give me a chance. Like, just let me in. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but this isn't really like, this isn't your skill set. Like, I don't think this is the right role for you, but they just want to get in. So there's a lot of that feeling. And then the other thing that really stood out to me was, the number of people that talked about how they have had trouble over the last 6 months. And it made sense to me. I operate so much in terms of price that isn't happening in the markets right now that I just assume that the jobs follow that. So I'm like, price goes up, everyone must be hiring again. A lot of the crypto companies' tokens have gone up, which means they have more capital available. So, okay, they must be in a good position. But I always forget that companies lag. Often their decision-making is, they're making decisions now for a quarter or a year from now. They're setting budgets way ahead. So it's actually a lag that's happening. What are you seeing from the employer side? Are employers in a great position right now?
Yeah, I think employers are in a great position right now in terms of having access to a pool of candidates that in any other circumstance would not be available. They have access to top tier candidates that have just gotten let go of the best companies in the Web3 space. They have the ability to set salaries lower than probably market rate. They have the ability to, comp on benefits. They can be cheap about it. And they can force people to go back into office. I mean, that's a whole different conversation of companies, that prefer the return to office. And I think employers, the big guys, they're going to come back. We're going to continue to see jobs over the next 2 quarters go up from those individuals. I think from the smaller companies, the startups that are under 50 employees, they're hurting right now. They're trying to figure out, how the heck did I just get through that bear market? How do I raise more funding? Who can I hire right now with the little funding that I have left? And can that get me the skill set that I need to help me bring my startup to the next level? And I think there's a really big gap between the little guys and the big guys right now. But all in all, it's a great market to be an employer in. You have access to a ton of really, really qualified candidates.
So what are you saying, like, to our listeners who are job seekers and they're having a tough time, they can't find something?
Yeah.
Should they go back to Web2? Like, what's your recommendation right now? Is there another path that you suggest?
Yeah.
You tell them.
Yeah. My first thing I would say is, I feel you. I'm with you. I understand. It's hard out there. I speak to hundreds of job seekers throughout the week. You are not alone. I would say the people that will stand out in this next round of hiring are the people who leveled up their resume, who spent the time learning new skills, refining their resume, updating it, chatting with recruiters, and really taking the time to make sure that their resume stands out in what will be a pile full of applicants. The people that are networking, going to conferences, the people that are really going out of their way. And at the end of the day, you do what you have to do. Maybe you take a Web2 job just to justify the means, which a lot of people do. People have bills, people have everyday expenses, but it doesn't mean that the door is closed on Web3. You can still apply. You can still find that opportunity when the time is right. And so continue upskilling your resume. That is the single most important thing that you can do during a bear market.
And when you recommend people to upskill, is there particular skills that you find are the most valuable within Web3 or that employers value or that you're recommending to people? I'm guessing it's not learning how to go into Discords and say GM over and over.
No, it's not. However, I would love to see a candidate who in their skills section, the first bullet point is, can say GM in a Discord channel. That actually might help you stand out.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, other skill sets, naturally this conversation will dip into AI, and the AI job market as well, which is very complementary to the Web3 ecosystem. And I do believe that training yourself to be proficient in certain tooling within the AI space and putting that on your resume, even if you're applying to a Web3 job, will help you stand out, because a lot of founders right now, a lot of companies are trying to figure out how to implement those tools anyway. But it's hard to speak generically. So what I would recommend is, let's say you're an analyst in the space and you're like, hey, what kind of skills should I have on my resume? Go to MetaIntro's Discord and you'll see the analyst channel and you'll see all of the jobs that have been posted. Click on a JD and see what the requirements are, and make sure the requirements for that are the keywords, the skills that are required are also in your resume.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up AI. One of the first questions we ask in our application process, like at the beginning, before we even go to interview, is, are you using AI? How are you using it? And what tools are you using? And I pretty quickly filter out those who are not using AI. And I bump up those. Everyone's using ChatGPT, so that one doesn't really impress me anymore. What more so I find impresses me is the people who are either very thoughtful in how they're using it and they have like implemented it into their workflow or into their daily habits or their daily routine, and they have like real examples of how they use it, or the ones that are deeper down the AI tech stack, to use that term, and they're using AI tools that I've either never heard of, or they're using it in ways that I'm like, oh, wow, like you're really focused on efficiency. And that matters obviously to me as an employer. So it's really interesting that you bring AI up. The other thing I find for us is I just want to see that people are doing shit on chain. Like, I don't care what it is. I just want to know, like, all you have to do is come to an interview and just tell me about something topical or relevant that you participated in recently. You minted some free NFT, which then got you token gated access to this, which you thought was really cool. Like, walk me through how you understand what it is like to be an on-chain user, because you can show me that you are an on-chain user.
Yes. And you could even have a section for that on your resume. So let's say you have your skills section, your contact section on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you have your about me, your experience section. Save some space for literally titled the fun stuff, and put those bullet points of what you've been doing in your spare time, what you've been doing that's relevant to the industry, what shows your curiosity, because you will find time and time again that in these job descriptions, they'll say requirement, bullet point, curious about Web3, curious and always wants to learn. But that's a really good way as a job seeker in your resume to relay that information. Somebody who's constantly dabbling. And if anything, that tiny section can be what gets you in the door to an interview.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because it's interesting how, and I find this right now when we're hiring, I don't get a lot of people that have professional Web3 experience. Most of the time, I get people that have personal Web3 experience, and then their professional experience is in Web2 or some, something else. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually completely okay with that, so long as I think a lot of people are not doing a good job of demonstrating their Web3 experience. So like, you do a great job. I understand your professional experience. Okay, I'm hiring for a social media manager role. You can show me that you've done that role before somewhere else. Okay, great, right on. But have you been involved in crypto Twitter? Tell me how you're involved in crypto Twitter. Do you understand building community in crypto and why that's different than maybe the social media management role that you've done before? Like, it is so important for these candidates to be able to express even something as simple as just tell me when you first bought Bitcoin. I often find I want to know that. Like, I want to know, like, did you first buy it in 2017 or did you buy it in 2022? And I'm not necessarily going to make a decision on that, but it's very interesting to know. Or I want to know that you bought it and then you lost your wallet. And I'm like, oh shit, like you understand the pain of this industry too. I'm thinking as we go here, but I'm realizing how much in my interviews with people, I really do focus more on like your crypto and your personal experience than I do professional, often right now, at least.
Did you spend a lot of time during your interviews asking those questions, or did people voluntarily give you that information?
No, I have to ask it. Nobody voluntarily, and if they do, they don't do it well, right? Like, they give it in the lamest way. Like our process is, first step is a video application. And I always ask for it in the video application, but people don't do a great job of explaining it. Most people, like, let's say most video applications are usually about 5 minutes, right? There's usually about 5 questions. And the 2 major questions are, what is your professional experience related to this role? And then what's your crypto experience? And most people in a 5-minute interview, they'll do like 3 minutes on, or more, 4 minutes on their professional experience related to the role. And often I find they're talking about like what they did in a relevant role, but in a totally different industry. And I actually tune out and I stop listening. And I'm like, just get to the crypto experience. Tell me about your crypto experience. And it's making me, and then when we do get an interview, I have to really push them on it because they don't do a good job of telling that story.
Yeah, pitching yourself is an art, and it's hard. And unless you have a ton of experience doing it, you probably find yourself as a candidate figuring out, is it stupid that I'm saying this? Will they think this is funny? Does this give me a leg up? Especially because a lot of the early crypto experiences are so stupid. It's like, you totally got ragged and like, what does that make you look like? It takes an art to kind of turn that into then. And this is what it taught me about the industry. This is why I became passionate. Like the art of storytelling is very hard, and it's so important for a job seeker to be able to do that. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck in these interviews where I'm sure you had a ton of qualified applicants who just couldn't tell their story and just like were either too shy or didn't know whether or not that was a good story to share, and what would pertain to like an opportunity with you. And they may have totally missed out on an opportunity to land this job with you just because of that. So if you are a job seeker and you're watching this, the art of storytelling is so important. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the natural follow-up here.
Yeah. How do you
is there a framework you use for storytelling? How does somebody become a good storyteller?
Good storyteller. How does someone become? I don't know. I think I should noodle on that and get back to you. Backstory context. I used to work in casting, and I did unscripted casting for the first half of my career, which is essentially recruitment for on-camera television. And it was my job to get stories out of people who wanted a job being on TV. And granted, those people want to be on TV, so they kind of understood the craziness that, they needed to implement into their story. They kind of knew how to go about it. And once I switched out of that industry, I realized, hey, job seekers like don't really know how to tell a good story. And I don't know, there should be like a masterclass on that, because it's not a hard skill to learn. And I'm sure there are basic bullet points that you should hit. I don't know. I will circle back to you on that one. Maybe I can find some.
Maybe we should do like a Web3 Academy MetaIntro art of storytelling masterclass, because I love this stuff too. And I really do find, most candidates are not great storytellers. They tend to do two things. They can be good storytellers. They tell the wrong story a lot. I find that a lot. I get into an interview with somebody. I'm like, oh, weird. Like, I can already tell that you're telling me something that is not relevant, but you know this story maybe, so they're comfortable with it, right? Yeah. And they just go down that path. And then the other thing is, they just do a terrible job. I feel like I'm being very negative right now. I don't mean to be. They do a terrible job of like picking one story and sticking to it. So they'll kind of jump around a lot. But to me, like, you just got to keep it simple and just tell me a story relevant to your crypto experience. Like, I think that's, and if you don't even know what that story is, just tell me what you did in crypto in the last, more recently, right? Like, tell me you got in the year you bought Bitcoin, and then be like, in the last 6 months, here's what I did. Okay, here's a good example. I got an interview with somebody. And they told me that they bought a apartment in Tulum using DeFi. And I will never forget that candidate. Yeah. Like, I now know that candidate is ingrained in my mind. I mean, that's obviously super unique. Not everybody can say that, but that's something they did on chain. They did using crypto that makes them stand out to me. And I guess, you know what the truth is, even if you don't have any money, just go do a bunch of stuff on chain. Like, there's free NFTs you can mint. There's points programs you can join. There's airdrop farming. There's all these things that you can do. Just go do one of those things, do it fully, and then just tell me that you did it. I don't even really care if you can tell me, like, what it meant to you. That would be nice. But if you can just tell me you did it, I'm stoked on you now. And now I can like, really, you stand out in my mind, not just as like, oh yeah, someone who's been in crypto for a few years, but no, you did something specific. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, storytelling, so important. Let's go from state of job market. Well, I'm sure we might have scared some of our listeners. It's not hopeless, I will say, at least I think. It's coming back. Be careful out there. Watch out for scams. And I think that there's going to be, I would assume, I guess, here's a question for you. When do you think the job market will come back? Can you predict that at all? Soon? No, with my magic ball. I think, the big companies are always hiring, the Binance, Kraken, and I do say that a little bit in a skeptical way, because there are such a thing as ghost jobs. And, if you've been around computer, what's a ghost job? So a ghost job is like a vanity job, a job that maybe they're thinking about hiring for, but not actually hiring for right this minute. There can be so many ways that are like maybe a bit more nefarious. I'm not saying that these companies are doing that, but I am saying that there are jobs out there that are being posted that companies are not necessarily actively hiring for, need that candidate today. So when that happens, that could mean your interview process takes 2 months. It could mean that you get ghosted by the recruiter and you never have an answer as to why you didn't get the job, or you never get contacted back. And so usually you see these like ghost jobs pop up after the holidays, after, sometime in the late fall, right before the holidays. And so that's to say there are jobs out there. So like, I'm a little skeptical when I see, all of these big companies consistently hiring and posting new jobs literally every single day. But that's not to say that they aren't actually hiring for those roles. All in all, the market will come back. It always does. People want to work in this space. And if people can't find a job, they'll innovate. Maybe they'll make a product of their own. Maybe they'll, help a Web2 company push into the Web3 space. If the job market wants it bad enough, there will be jobs. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to switch up the order of our show here live on you, because I've just been consistent in my mind. You mentioned networking is such a powerful way to get into the job space. And so I want to talk about networking. And I don't know if my lead here is I want to go towards conferences and job fairs, which you guys are doing. But I don't know if you first want to talk about networking digital versus networking IRL, or I'll let you.
Sure. Yeah. Networking, there's so much. So as a job seeker, and maybe not everyone feels like this, but I do feel like there's a big portion of people that do, is that being a job seeker is a very vulnerable process. You're exposing yourself, you're being very vulnerable. There's a lot of anxiety around it. And God forbid you have to network IRL and put yourself out there in competition with everybody that's around you that's also looking for that same job. How do you stand out? And I feel like there's a ton of ways you could stand out online. Having a strong crypto Twitter profile, having a great LinkedIn, participating in online hackathons, being in Discord communities, being very active and vocal, putting content out there, commenting on people's tweets and connecting with people on LinkedIn. But when it comes to networking in person, it's a different beast. There's other things that you could be doing that makes a lasting impression. That is a good use of your time, because networking IRL can be expensive. It's not free for anyone. It's the cost of getting there. It's the cost of staying there. And then what is the opportunity? What's the ROI on that? For a job seeker, spending $1,000 on a conference ticket or $1,000 to get somewhere can be really expensive, especially when you don't know when your next job opportunity is going to come in. So how do you make use of that time, and how do you do it well? So we've done, over the past year and some change, we've done about 5 or 6 conferences, job fairs, and I've seen the craziest stuff. Some stuff where I'm like, that should be the poster child for how to network IRL, all the way down to, other people where I'm like, I wish I could just give you a packet so you could read through it. And, so that the next conference, you have these mini tools in your tool bag. So I can rant about this for a while because I've done so many of them now. But if there's something specific that you wanted to talk about within that.
Yeah, I think let's talk a little bit about, I'd love to hear any stories, if you have any funny stories of the best or the worst. Any stories that come to mind? Let's do that first.
I've seen some pretty gnarly t-shirts, but gnarly t-shirts and that are
like a t-shirt that's promoting that I'm looking for a job.
Totally. Some that are really inappropriate, but it's clearly a job seeker trying to catch somebody's attention. I don't want to call them lingerers. Yeah, that will literally stay the entire conference in the corner, making sure they talk to every single person. That's also called hustle.
Yeah.
It could be either. I'm trying to think. I wish I came more prepared with
what do some of these t-shirts say? What do some of these t-shirts say?
I don't know if they're all appropriate to say on this.
Oh no, you could say it. Say it.
Yeah. God, I've seen so much. The best t-shirts that I've seen though are the ones that have literally on the back, I am a Solidity developer. Hire me, with a big QR code, and the QR code links to their resume, their online portfolio. Love that. I've seen people get really creative with their t-shirts because you are a walking advertisement. And so, if somebody can passively see that and that sparks a conversation, somebody scans it, I think that's such a fun opportunity to network passively.
I love that. I wouldn't have never even considered that. Okay, so you guys have got a job fair coming up at East Denver. I think you're doing a few more, maybe NFT NYC and some others. Tell us a little bit about the job fairs. Actually, before we talk about the job fairs, what would be, other than t-shirts and set, what other advice would you give to somebody who's attending one of these job fairs, or maybe just attending a conference around networking?
Yeah. So to have your contact information ready, whether that's, do you know what a popple is?
No.
Those cards. There's something called a popple, and not endorsed by them whatsoever, just love their product. It's essentially a card that has a digital NPC, is that what it's called, in it, where you can tap it.
Okay, so you tap your phone.
You tap the card on somebody's phone, and then up pops that person's link in bio, their website, their Twitter, whatever that is. And this way, instead of having to airdrop something to them, you stick it on the back of your phone and you just tap it onto somebody's phone. That could be your resume. That can be whenever you're going to the conference.
How do you spell it? How do you spell
POPPL? And there's a ton of other competitors. Popples are a little bit expensive, but those are a great way. Having fun swag, like the t-shirts, setting up meetings beforehand. Shoot your shot, slide into somebody's DMs. If you're not sure who's going to be at the conference, go to Crypto Twitter, see who's talking about it, go to LinkedIn, go to the conference's website, see who's sponsoring the event, try to reach out to the recruiters, the people that are in BD, reach out to them on LinkedIn, shoot them a message, see if you can grab a time for coffee or if you can meet them at the event. And then also have a clear follow-up strategy. I think that's what people miss a ton of the time is like, great, I connected with so-and-so at this conference. When do I send them a message? Do I send them a message? Do I add them on LinkedIn? What is that follow-up strategy? So I think having that idea in the back of your head when you're going to these events is helpful because you know, hey, I'm making this contact for a reason. I'm doing this for a reason. And hopefully there's some ROI on it on the other end after I follow up with them. Other things you can do, participating in the hackathons. There's most often non-technical and technical tracks. It's generally free to participate. Side events are great if you can't afford the actual event. The side events are almost always just as good, if not better, than the actual event itself. I know a lot of people who will go out to the conferences, like, for instance, Consensus is so expensive. It's insane. But the side events it's literally the same people that are in the room at Consensus. They're just hanging out outside of the conference. So just go to the side events. Don't even go to the actual conference. That's okay. There's a ton of stuff you can do. People can get really creative.
That's all really great advice. Okay, tell us a little bit about your job fairs and how they work and how people can show up to those.
Yes. So last year we hosted so many fairs. It was an amazing journey. We learned so much and we are back at it this year. We'll be co-hosting the official job fair for ETH Denver. It'll be on the second floor of the conference center. We're expecting about 400 people, which is amazing. It's going to be packed. We'll have panels. At all MetaIntro events, we have headshot stations where we get to mint the headshots into NFTs in real time, which for a lot of people is their first time minting an NFT, first time figuring out how to claim it, using it last year as their professional photo on Twitter and using it in a professional manner. And we'll have resume help, we'll have coffee, we'll have a DJ. I try to take the anxiety out of the job fairs as best as I can. So usually some good music in the room does it, some good coffee.
Cool.
So that's ETH Denver. We'll also be hosting the official job fair for NFT NYC. That's at the Javits Center, IWB in DC, which is a female crypto blockchain conference, and a few more. So maybe after this, I'll give you the link to where you can find out about all of our job fairs. They're fun, I promise.
It sounds like a fun. I've never been to a job fair with a DJ. I'm lucky I haven't been to a job fair in a long time, but I remember back in my university days, job fairs definitely did not have DJs.
Yeah.
So
when we were first talking about doing the job fairs, I said to my CTO, I was like, what if we just like hosted a job fair in a nightclub? Like, and we had TV screens around the room. You can scan the QR codes. We had drinks. So it's like relaxing and chill. You know, like it's Web3. We can really do anything. And my CTO was like, no, we're not doing that. That's not to say at some point I will win and we will have one of those. So coming soon. We'll see.
We'll get your CTO on the show. We'll have
ask him about it. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you because you brought up the a professional headshot, which actually I think is a great idea because I think you're right. Most people have never gotten a professional headshot. But here's a question. What about using your own face on crypto Twitter or LinkedIn versus the PFP? Any thoughts on that as a job seeker?
So at all of our job fairs, except for ETH Denver, because there just was such a lack of space, we're really constricted on the space that we have. We actually have a build your own professional avatar station.
Okay.
Which is a lot of fun. A lot of people will apply to jobs with their PFP or their Ready Player Me avatar, and they use that as a professional identity. However, not all of those avatars are professional, and it is okay to have many iterations of your avatar that showcase who you are as a person and both as a job seeker and as a professional. And so we built that activation with hopes that people can kind of see, hey, I can be anonymous. I can use some of these tools within the Web3 space and still have fun with it and have a professional version of it. That's been interesting to build that out. I think it could apply with anything. I've seen it all. I think gone are the days of anonymous resumes. I don't know if you remember that, like over the past few years where people were just like fully anon. I think those days are behind us. You have to dox yourself for some of the bigger companies.
Yeah, unless you're joining a DAO where everyone's anon, right? Like unless that was the sort of the standard, then. But I don't.
Sure.
I mean that there might be 10 of those left. Right? There's not many. One thing I saw recently that I really liked was the combo. So I actually just hired somebody for our team, and this was their crypto Twitter profile pic was their face, professional photo, and then they have a little pudgy. And so they put their pudgy on their shoulder. And I thought that was kind of creative.
I love that.
I love that. Like, and it doesn't matter what pudgy is obviously an expensive PFP, and I'm not telling job seekers to go buy a pudgy, but any little, like, I think that kind of, that shows that you're in Web3, that you're part of the community, that you're active here. You're not just trying to get in.
I love that. Did that help that individual stand out when they were?
I mean, I hired her, so it's definitely not the reason I hired her. But yeah, it for sure. You know the thing about hiring is, and I'm sure you know this too, is you meet so many people that, and this is I think why storytelling is so important as well. You forget, right? Like, so I'm so busy. I'm hiring for a role. Usually you've got to have hundreds of people apply. You don't have to do hundreds of interviews. You need hundreds of applicants in order to get, probably like 20 to 30 solid interviews in order to shortlist 3 to 5, pick one, right? Like that's usually the numbers that I find you need to do. And I forget people. I just do, right? Like I'm like, I'm looking through my database. I'm like, I interviewed that person? I'm like, I don't even remember who that is.
Yeah.
And so anything you can do. And for her, Diana's her name. I'll use her name instead of just keep referring to her. For Diana, this little, creative profile picture, it made her very memorable for me. So I was like, oh yeah, the little pudgy one, right? Like, so yeah, it helps.
Well, shout out to Diana.
Yeah, way to go, Diana. Yeah, I'm sure she'll listen to this and laugh that I did not plan on bringing her up in this show. Okay, I want to go to the MetaIntro. You guys did a great raise since the last time we had on the show, and you guys have built an incredible product and an incredible community. So I want to focus a little bit more. Let's shift from the job seekers to let's tell our audience a bit more about MetaIntro. Yeah. Tell us about the raise and tell us what you guys have been up to and what you're building.
Yeah, so last time I was on the show, I don't even know if I had raised yet.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I had. So right after the show, I went on to raise 3 rounds of capital that year, which was insane. It was a long journey to learn how to do that as an entrepreneur. I went and I raised a really substantial grants round, which gave me enough authority and maybe not authority, street cred to then be able to go out and raise a pre-seed round, which then led me to quickly turn around and raise a seed round. So we ended up raising about 5.6. To date, it's a little over 6 mil with some of the grants and credits post that. But that was a wild ride. That was amazing. And I did that with about 1,200 people within the MetaIntro ecosystem. And today, we're actually closer to about 600,000 people that rely on us for jobs in the space. And I set out to build what I coined as a resume wallet for Web3. We're earning, and it's always been the case, we're always earning credentials every which way on the internet. But there's not a single way to be able to, as a job seeker, take those credentials and turn around to an employer and show them those on-chain skills, that on-chain work history. And so MetaIntro, it's a resume wallet for Web3. It's a multi-chain custodial wallet that holds your on-chain credentials and interacts as a browser extension with job applications. However, our community, for the most part, lives within our newsletter. And we have a tri-weekly newsletter that goes out 3 times a week, highlights different jobs within the Web3/AI space. And the wallet is plugged into that experience, which is really exciting. So as the newsletter grew, we were like, hey, I wonder if people would actually prefer their wallet to be connected to their newsletter experience. And instead of them receiving this big randomized list of jobs that we hope that they're interested in, let's instead give them a wallet that then plugs into their newsletter that shows them jobs that are only relevant to them. So instead of receiving dozens of jobs that are not relevant to you, you're now receiving jobs that are completely relevant to you. Jobs, news, who knows? Sky's the limit with that. So It's been great. When I first was on the show, it was only me and my CTO, and now we have a team of 10, and it's been a good ride. It's been a crazy ride. We got really lucky raising and deciding to build what we wanted to build at that time. I think timing is everything when you're building, and we got lucky with that.
You make your own luck, so I appreciate you saying that, but I'm sure a lot of that was hard work and hustle for sure that you and your team deserve a lot of credit for. So I'm a job seeker, and my first step would be to join your newsletter, I assume. And then do I need to already have on-chain credentials to bring to the wallet, or do I develop those through setting up the wallet and joining MetaIntro? What's sort of the typical process for a job seeker to get involved in your community and start to use the wallet?
Yeah, so you could have on-chain credentials. However, most of our members do not.
Yeah, that's
out of the 6. And also, like, I realize how crazy it sounds without some context. 600,000 people ranging from degens who have been in the space for 5+ years, all the way to people who have never heard of Web3 before, or maybe have just heard of an NFT. And they're like, hey, is this a path that I can pursue? Is this something, is this an industry that I can build a career in? I'm not sure. MetaIntro, like, help me out to figure out what that path could be. So it is a very, very wide range. We are also, some other stats, we're also represented now in over 170 countries. We represent almost 24 languages. And so it is a very wide audience. And so as we were building, we're like, how do you service that? Not everyone's going to have on-chain credentials. Most people don't have a wallet. So how do we build a product for such a wide audience? So you can either have on-chain credentials, which you can put into your wallet, or you can upload your resume. Our team built what we coined like a resume parser, which is built on a model that takes apart your resume, then puts stuff on chain free. I'm totally butchering it. My CTO will roll his eyes. Puts stuff on chain and then puts that into your wallet and your profile, and then helps deliver a more accurate newsletter to your email inbox.
Huh, very interesting. So like I could upload a PDF, like that could be my resume, and it will take out pieces of interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And so then do I receive the newsletter through the wallet, or do I receive it still just like through my email?
You'll still receive it through your email. I'm sure at some point here soon, over the next 6 months, you'll just get notifications to your wallet, or you can opt in for either. The issue is that so many people still just prefer email as their form of receiving anything. People might not want to have to go into their wallet to then see what they're being notified of. And so we'll build based on what people are asking for. But my guess is at some point, you'll get notifications just sent to your wallet.
Yeah, we've talked, I'm trying to remember, we had XMTP on the podcast. They're a Web3 messaging protocol. Coinbase uses XMTP and a couple others. I can't remember the names right now, but it's amazing when you think about how early we are in all of the tech here, that it's so clunky. It's so difficult to use, a lot of the Web3 tech. And we don't even have simple things like notifications or messaging embedded within. Well, it's no wonder not many people want to use it yet. But once we have those things, it'll make such a difference. And I agree. I think it's already here in some apps, and I think it's coming in a lot more apps in the future. I want to touch base on your community a little bit here, because I think it's absolutely incredible that you have a 600,000 person crypto community. You might be the biggest or one of the biggest communities in crypto. Do you have any idea how?
Probably.
Yeah, I would say so. You're definitely the biggest you're the biggest that I know of.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some that are big, but anyway,
yeah, we're growing about 30,000 people a month. And last year we did about 550 million in impressions across our brand. So it was a really big year for us. And so with that community, I love Web3. And I think it's been a conversation almost weekly with my team of at what point does Web3 take the back seat in what we're building? Because the people in our community, yes, they love Web3, they want a career in it, but they just want a job. They just want to be able to work. I don't think they care about the wallet. They don't care about necessarily the on-chain credentials. They just want to know, can I use your product to get a job faster? And it's the struggle, which I feel like a lot of founders in the Web3 space go through, is like, we're Web3, we're going to champion, that's going to be across all of our branding. But I think us internally, we're kind of at this weird fork in the road of like, do we just drop Web3? And do we just build a product that operates better, within our industry and services our customers better because of Web3 tools? I don't know. So you might see, at some point that vocabulary change on our site and on what we do. But our community at the end of the day, like, they love Web3, but they just want a job and they just want to be able to get a job faster. And can we use Web3 tools to do that? So I do.
I appreciate your sharing this with us. This is the hardest thing as a founder, is to know when to pivot and which pivots to take, because there is constantly opportunities presented to you when you're growing. And it's very difficult to know where you should focus on and where you should allocate resources to. And also to know when you make, like, that's a major pivot that you guys would make. Shout out to you you seem incredibly calm. You look great. You're handling it all very well.
Yeah, well, it's a good problem to have. And like, I don't want to stay in Web3 forever. Like, I want to be able to use what we're using and service every industry. What's to say that somebody, Chipotle, who's hiring, I think like 800 workers in the next 2 quarters to go work for their branches, needs to hire faster, wants a tool to be able to do that. People want to work in the fast food industry. What's to say their on-chain credentials aren't food related? And they're, instead of getting crypto jobs to their newsletter or to their email inbox, it's just food jobs. Right. And so I'm thinking like that, and that also parlays into like other rounds of capital we might raise, what our business model ends up looking like down the road. And so I just want to be open. I don't want to be that Web3 company that like cannot dig their way out of being Web3. At the end of the day, ultimately, isn't it just about the tooling that we're building that makes a difference?
Well, and the ironic thing here is, I'm making this parallel, is everybody talks about account abstraction and abstract the chain. Abstract the chain is, and it's so for every founder, right? Like, there was a point when leaning into being crypto and using NFT and using those terms really worked. That's gone, right? Like, that's behind us. Abstract all of that. What you're talking about, though, is very interesting. You're almost talking about like abstracting Web3 at the business model level, which is really interesting. I had not thought about that. And I think that you're right, we might see more founders say, you know what, I came into the space, I wanted to build in Web3 because I believe that the tech could offer a better product. And initially, all my customers were Web3 because that's the space I was building in. So I kind of built it for those customers. But you're sort of saying, no, like, now what I'm realizing is actually we could use our product, still using blockchain, still using all that same tech, but we could offer it to anybody. And it's not necessarily just for crypto degens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. Wow. Exciting times over at MetaIntro. Okay. I want to give you a quick chance to give a shill. And then I got a couple fun speed round questions for you before we wrap.
Yeah. Shell, if you're heading out to ETH Denver, come by our job fair. You can't miss it. We'll be on the billboards and you'll see all of the signs and whatnot. We'll be on the second level. It'll be on March 2nd between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come get your headshot taken. Come mint an NFT. Come listen to good music. And then outside of that, if you go to metaintro.com/wallet/events, you'll see all of the other fairs that we'll be at. We're adding fairs, what seems to be like every month. We're looking at some international fairs as well. So if you're not in the US, I promise we're coming to you, and at MetaIntro across everything.
Right on. We'll put all those links in the show notes for all of our listeners. Okay, fun questions. One prediction for 2024.
That's Web3 related or just like in general?
You know what? You can think it whatever way you want. We're talking about abstracting Web3. Abstract it from the question.
Yeah, I know, right?
You want to tell me who the next president's going to be?
I know. If you had asked me before the Super Bowl, I would have said Team Taylor's winning. I think jobs will come back 2024.
Q3? Okay.
Yeah, that's my guess.
I love it. One thing you bought recently for under $100 that brings you joy. Definitely track crypto from this too.
Yeah. You asked me this question last time and I'll never forget it because whatever my answer was, it was so embarrassing.
I don't remember. I was
for
there
days. And I was like, who says that? Like I hope no one ever listens to this. Best thing that I just bought under $100 would be my new Nespresso machine was like $120. So
nice.
it's around the
Good
range.
coffee.
Amazing.
Good coffee, very important. Agreed. Yeah.
Yep.
I also have an espresso, big fan. Okay, last question. You might remember this from last time. If you had a billboard that 1 billion people were going to see, what would you write on it?
So I technically have like online billboards a ton of people see, and they range from job market's dead all the way up to work in Web3. I think it would be between those two. Are those lame? Are those lame answers?
The job market's dead is not a lame answer. Work in Web3 is a bit.
Yeah.
But the job market dead with a QR code would definitely get a lot of job seekers to scan it, which actually could lead them to, the job market's not dead. To an intro, we'll show you.
Our swag at all of the conferences, we have t-shirts, and on the back, it's an application to McDonald's. So if you're coming to East Denver, pick up a t-shirt. It's dark humor. That's like pretty much all of our brand is dark humor. So
nice. I love it. I love it. Lacey, thank you so much for the time today. Thanks to you and your team for everything you guys are building. You're just a necessary resource and product in a space where we need more great talent coming in. I hope everybody listening have hope. You will get a job in Web3 eventually.
You will. I promise. It'll happen one way or another. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Have yourselves a great day.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe or follow so that you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, there's a link in the description for our free newsletter where we provide timely and relevant Web3 insights so you can confidently build and invest in Web3. Make sure to subscribe today. One final note. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto and Web3 are risky, and you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.